Alrighty, y'all. A pretty entertaining night of basketball, all said and done. But be honest, we got to get you off these advertisements, man. We got to get you back on the court. But that's something we'll talk about today. But let's start off with the Timberwolves and the Suns, which kind of just makes me feel a little bit sad at this point. I'm excited for the Minnesota Timberwolves in the sense that like it's good for the league to see new teams winning and stuff like that. Like this is a team that was built from within for the most part. That's really awesome. You got the Naz Reid story, Anthony Edwards becoming a star, like Towns and Gobert learning how to play together. Jaden McDaniels is becoming a household name. That's all awesome. But then on the other end, we've got the Phoenix Suns that it just looks sad at this point. That's the best way I can describe it. I'm sure that's what everyone else on YouTube is saying at this point. But like in all honesty, like it is just sad. Like what are they doing out there right now? They just look like they're playing in mud. The offense hasn't gotten any more like creative up to this point, and the supporting cast just the concern we had at the beginning of the season like is finally coming into fruition now that like teams have time to game plan for this team like really extensively. There's not enough screen setters, there's not enough playmakers, the spacing isn't good enough, this team doesn't take enough 3-pointers. Coach Vogel before the game was like, we got to get up at least like 40 something threes, 28 threes again. He made 11 of them. It's just like you actually made a pretty good clip of them, but like you got to take some threes, man. These mid-rangers don't matter at this point. And like credit to the Minnesota Timberwolves where like Jaden McDaniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Anthony Edwards, these guys are navigating the screens really well because that's all the Phoenix Suns do is just these like little pick and rolls to get one of these guys moving. Everyone else is just watching, waiting for the big three to get going. But these guys are navigating the screens well, contesting all their shots, and even when the Suns do get in some sort of like swing offense going on, like the X outs by the Timberwolves are really, really good. They're getting a very strong contest in each one. Yeah, there's just nothing coming off Phoenix's bench right now. Like Eric Gordon is a nice option, like all said and done, but just not really doing a ton right now. Drew Eubanks just can't really throw him out there to do and expect much at all. Like they threw Bull out there at this point. Like that's how you know it's getting desperate. And then I mean, man, you look through the rest of this roster. I don't know what you're supposed to do. I'd rather have Josh Okogie out there than like some of these other guys, at least, because at least you know you're going to get some dog out of him. And like throwing Isaiah Thomas out there, I just don't think it's going to do anything, y'all. Like I understand they need a point guard and everything. I love IT. I just don't think that's actually going to do anything. But let's give the Timberwolves some credit, man. Like these boys are just on autopilot right now. And I said the Phoenix Suns were probably going to win this series just because of matchups and everything. But I clearly didn't give Coach Finch and these boys enough credit to be able to really lock it in game plan because they are just better than the Phoenix Suns. First of all, Anthony Edwards was just an absolute dog last night. 36 points, 9 rebounds. He's a monster on the glass, man. And like this was one of those games where he was really out there playing like really hard defense. And I always love seeing that. Like that's so cool to see a superstar that's that locked in defensively. That's always a ton of fun. Like a Cat played a really nice game. There were points where like they were really trying to get Cat going, which I thought was great coaching by Finch. Like when they came out of the second half and like the first like 3 possessions, it was like, all right, Cat, we're gonna let you go do your thing, and he just went and got a couple buckets right away. Like that's just like good coaching right there, and that just makes me really happy. That's the stuff that like I used to emphasize as a coach. Where I'd tell like our point guard or something. There was one year when I was coaching in college basketball where we had a what's the term I'm looking for? Like a National Player of the Year candidate, and he played center, and he was a spacing center. And I was like, hey, he's not getting going early enough in this game. So I'm like, so the first couple possessions, it's your job to set him up for as many pick and pops as possible because he was a spacing big. And I'm like, let's get him going. I want him taking the first couple shots so he's really involved in this game in the next half. And that's, you can tell what they really were trying to do here. But like otherwise, like Mike Conley being able to delegate himself to playing off ball and being a great like spacer, finding the pockets to be a good shooter. Jaden McDaniels attacking again. He started early, but then he kind of went away from it again. But Jaden McDaniels' defense was so good that I don't even care that he only took 4 shots. Yeah, so that's something we can work on, but you know what it is. And Rudy Gobert is just a monster defensively right now. Like even he's like stepping up and guarding some of these guards, whether it be Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. It's absolutely elite to see. And then, of course, shout out Naz Reid, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Nickeil Alexander-Walker just came out there, did his thing, played great defense, spaced the floor. His success story is absolutely awesome. Shout out Finch for developing him. Naz Reid just out there being a little energy bug last night. I still want to find a way to get Monte Morris involved more, just because I've seen more out of him in the past. But, you know, he's had a pretty injury-riddled season, so we'll just see what he's capable of. And Kyle Anderson got out there. That's probably the best way to describe it. He was back from injury, and he was kind of like, yeah, you know, not too bad, not great either, but you know, he's getting back into the flow of the game, so that's awesome. Yeah, Timberwolves beat the snot out of Phoenix. I'll probably do a series when teams get eliminated just talking like for like 10 minutes or something about like what their future kind of holds. We'll take a look at like their current situation and talk about maybe what they can do. Because like we understand this Phoenix Suns team is very expensive and it's not working. They don't take enough threes and their supporting cast isn't good. But what can you actually do to make that happen? I don't know, because they don't have like any second round picks or like anything to move. I think they have their first round pick this year. But yeah, so let me know in the comments if that's something you guys want to see. All right, second game, we got to talk Bucks Pacers, man, because like apparently I can't, just like March Madness, I can't pick who's going to win ever in any of these games, unless it is my business involved in it, where I'm like actually supporting the team. Then I usually have a little better insight. Then my bracket looks a little bit better, but I'm not sure if I'm supposed to actually do that or not. But anyway, don't worry about that. The Pacers looked like the Indiana Pacers, like especially in the first quarter, and especially when Dame went down. I thought this game was going to get away from Milwaukee like really quickly, where the Pacers were just really out doing their thing. They were really running out there. You can tell offensively they've like keyed in on one thing. They're like, Bobby Portis isn't great at switch defense, and Bobby Portis is a good defender, but he's not great at it. That's just not really like a thing he has. Athleticism isn't like an A+ statistic for him. And they're like, and Brook Lopez really doesn't want to guard Miles Turner out there on the perimeter. So Tyrese Halliburton's out there. He took a lot more shots, which was awesome. He obviously hit the biggest shot last night, which we'll talk about. But it's like, okay, I'm going to come off this screen, usually with Pascal Siakam, because Pascal Siakam just wants to do the little short pop and everything, and he wants to get to the mid-range and do what he does out there, and that's an option. But if not, Halliburton's really was attacking off that pick and roll, and they're like, okay, Brook Lopez is probably going to try to block your shot, and if he, for whatever reason, doesn't, he's like, I'm just going to go to the rim. But more often than not, he just kicked it out to Miles Turner, who got to take 10 3-pointers last night. A lot of them just sitting in the corner because Brook Lopez was coming over to help, and they didn't have anybody that was Xing out on Milwaukee. And so Miles Turner was like, all right, I'm going to just tee it up then. Like, I'm going to let y'all have it. And he hit 40% of his threes. So he made him pay last night. And that's really just how it was. And then the other thing going for like Indiana, like defensively, was Aaron Nesmith trying to guard Chris Middleton, which just is not going well, and that's just probably because Aaron Nesmith just maybe isn't like strong enough to do so, because Chris Middleton was letting him have it on those back downs, man, and like they were letting him play, so that was pretty cool. Solid performances off the bench. Shout out Obi Toppin for coming out and hitting some spacing shots. I'd like to see him attack on a couple more of them, but that's okay. Obi Toppin was doing his thing. Maybe they'll develop him into an Aaron Gordon type of eventually. I'm still not sold on Ben Shepherd. I'd still rather see Doug McDermott out there, but you know what? You guys can let me know if I'm wrong about that. It was probably best that Jalen Smith's minutes went down and they more so went to like the Obi Toppin, Miles Turner, and Siakam thing. Jalen Smith just wasn't having a great series. TJ McConnell did TJ McConnell things. I always loved having TJ McConnell on the court. That's the best way to describe it. Now the Bucks, yeah, obviously Lillard went down a little bit early, but he came back and was very productive, and then he kind of went down again, and Doc was saying that it was his Achilles, and Lillard was like, just throw me out there as basically like the distraction or whatever, the decoy, so that Middleton can go get his buckets, and that's just unfortunate that that's what they had to go to, because man, in the game, I'm like, they're really not trying to pass it to Lillard here at the end. What is going on? And apparently Lillard was like, yeah, I have like no explosiveness right now, so sorry, I just can't do it. But Chris Middleton was willing to put on his hero hat, man. 42 points, like just vintage Chris Middleton, just hard buckets, kind of Kevin Durant style, where you're just like, wow, it's not like he's like blowing by anybody or hitting like a crazy fadeaway three, except he hit one or two crazy fadeaway threes, because those shots that he hit for like sending an OT and stuff were absolutely nuts. But man, so he's just out there getting pure buckets. But something you'll notice here is like Brook Lopez had a solid game all said and done. Like he probably could have gotten a few more rebounds, but the Pacers like offense was just so good. There's just not many rebounds to go get, unfortunately. But Brook Lopez was a -10 compared to everybody else, and that's because he's like, that he doesn't know what to do with Miles Turner. So what can we do about that? Like, so Bobby Portis probably has to guard him, and Brook Lopez probably has to guard Siakam, because Siakam's not kicking it on the 3-point line. It's not what he's doing. He went 0 for 3 last night when they did leave him open a couple times. So that's probably the switch up that needs to happen. Let's see if Doc Rivers can make that adjustment and everything. But like, otherwise, I'm a little bit confused what Milwaukee's doing with their bench right now. We talked about this, though. I was like, Andre Jackson Jr. needs to be in the game, and they threw him in the game, and he was an absolute positive for them. I see AJ Green was a positive, too, but like, come on, it's not really him doing it at the end of the day. I just don't think AJ Green needs the minutes. I think you can take those away and give them more to like Malik Beasley. Like, I think Malik Beasley is like a crucial guy for this team. He can go get some buckets right now, and Giannis isn't here. So I want Malik Beasley in. I want Andre Jackson Jr. in the game right now, and then Pat Connaughton can kind of be another guy to round it out as you need. But I'm glad Andre Jackson Jr. got in. He really made his impact defensively. That's awesome. So when is Giannis going to come back, though? Like, I feel like we have no idea when he's coming back, and I would assume now that they're down 2-1, they're gonna be like, okay, Giannis, like, we got to get you going now. Like, they were just trying to see like how many games they could take from Indiana in that time, and throwing Giannis out there is gonna be a difference maker, obviously. But now Lillard is a little banged up, right? So it's like, okay, well, now how much offense do we really have, right? And they're back to kind of the standard Milwaukee Bucks where it's Middleton and Giannis, but now they don't have Drew Holiday, right? So it's an interesting situation. I'm not panicking about Milwaukee at all at this point. I just think they got to make adjustments, and we all know that that's not always Doc Rivers' strong suit, but I think they can completely out-talent them still, and I don't know. I don't think it's hard adjustments that they have to make to get back in this series. All right, last one. The Mavs shut down the Clippers. That is probably a good way to describe this game, man. Let's, where do we want to start? Let's start with the Clippers, right? Like, Kawhi Leonard was out there. That's the best way to describe it. Like, he wasn't really doing all that much, but he was out there, grabbed some rebounds, looks like, had some turnovers, took 7 shots. Cool. Thanks, Kawhi Leonard. All right, let's move past Kawhi Leonard. Let's talk about Paul George. Let's talk about Paul George and James Harden put together. They don't look like they know what they're doing on offense anymore. I'm very confused what's going on. Like, it feels like offensively they have a new focus every possession, and it's just based upon whoever's bringing the ball up the court is figuring out what's happening, and nobody else seems to like be on the same page as them right now. It looks like when they first traded for James Harden, where they're like, okay, who gets to touch the ball right now, and like what kind of shot are we going to get out of this possession? And James Harden was good last night, like at least offensively. Defensively, he was actually pretty atrocious last night, but that's kind of James Harden sometimes. And oh yeah, he was negative 21 plus minus. That's really bad. That's really, really, really bad. But they needed his shot making last night, so don't get me wrong. Terrence Mann basically was out there just to be in fights. That's really about it. Shout out Zoo. He was great on the boards. But yeah, Paul George just wasn't very efficient last night. Like, he wasn't like bad in all said and done. It's just there was so many times where it felt like he was just going straight to ISO like as soon as he got down the court, and he's just trying to make something happen against some pretty good defenders. And, you know, he didn't really convert on a lot of those shots, and that's unfortunate. But, like, you know, you guys aren't the Dallas Mavericks. You know, you guys aren't the ultimate ISO team, which we'll talk about Dallas's offense in a second, which is scary to me, but it's working against the Clippers. But yeah, I don't know. Norm Powell was out there as well, and he was hitting his shots. That's awesome. Westbrook kind of had I'm not going to say a West Brick night, but now that I've mentioned it, you know exactly what I'm thinking, where it was one of those times again where Westbrook tried to do too much offensively, and he needs to just be like the defensive-minded backup point guard. That's probably for the best. They just left Amir Coffey open. They're like, we are not afraid of Amir Coffey at all. You let him do whatever he needs to do, and yeah, they paid for it. So the Clippers need to figure out what they're doing offensively. They need to find some sort of logic to this stuff. I feel like going to like Zubats more often is going to be beneficial, right? Like letting him touch the post a little bit and then working outside of him, because he's a smart basketball player. And at the end of the day, he can back down Gafford and Lively to like start things off, force people to collapse. You can get some better shots off of it. I just think that's for the betterment of the team. Statistically, a team, if they touch the paint, their points per possession go up like 0.3, 0.4 points per possession, which is a really big deal. So I just think the Clippers got to find a way to do that. They got to speed up their offense a little bit because it looks really slow right now, and nobody looks like they know what they're doing. They're not on the same page. So Clippers, we gotta figure it out. All right, Mavericks now. So we saw some adjustments, right? Because obviously Tim Hardaway Jr. not playing, right? And so that meant that Josh Green got to play more, which is something that I said needed to happen. We needed his energy, his defense, his switchability, and they actually played Daniel Gafford solid minutes, and they got a good defensive performance. What a surprise! What a concept, Jason Kidd. It's not that complicated. I was complaining the last couple of games that they haven't been playing Gafford enough, and Daniel Gafford's like very important to this team, like defensively, the alley-oops. Like Daniel Gafford was switching on to like Kawhi and like Paul George and like hardening them and like contesting their shots and stuff and making it really difficult for them. You need him out there. The rotation where they had like Luka Doncic out there with like, I want to say it was like Derek Lively and then a combination of like Josh Green, Dante Exum, maybe like Derek Jones Jr., sub PJ Washington in at some points where you basically just had switchable wings and like bigs out there. absolutely lethal because it's just Luka going to work offensively, doing his thing, and then absolute lockdown clamp defense on the other end, which was really, really cool to see. But before I forget, I want to talk about like Dallas's overall offense. It looks bad right now, in my opinion. It looks bad. Like, people are hitting their shots and everything. That's cool. PJ Washington is a damn folk hero at this point because he's protecting Luka Doncic and he's just playing awesome. Really love PJ Washington, the development of his game. But it's still just like Luka and Kyrie taking up like 75% of the shot clock and then trying to make something happen in the last second. And that's like, if you're trying to slow teams down, I get that, but like, I don't think this is going to win you a championship. And I made that whole video talking about that and everything, and that's not a good way to get the rest of your players engaged offensively, but I'm a little bit concerned about it. And I don't know where it goes long term, but Kyrie and Luka were doing their thing last night, and more importantly, they were both really engaged defensively, which was awesome to see. So it is what it is there. Yeah, otherwise, shout out Derek Lively, just because I didn't specifically shout him out. I was talking about Gafford mostly. Like, he played basically the same game that Gafford did. It was awesome. Love to see it. Again, Derek Jones Jr. is out there. He's really contributing with that switching defense, and he's spacing the floor a little bit. Josh Green needs to play starter level minutes. He should be the starting small forward for this team, most likely. Just his energy, his offensive rebounding, his ability to get out and transition and run with guys like Luka and Kyrie. Like, he's one of those guys that's just doing all the little things right. And I just think he's absolutely critical for them. Maxi Kleber had a decent game at least this time, so that's cool. Yeah, no, I'm not like giving up on the Clippers either by any means. There's Giannis again. Giannis, we got to get you on the court and out of these overalls, my guy. But I'm not like worried about the Clippers per se. Isn't the right word. I'm just like, I'm curious, right? Like, what kind of adjustments are they going to make? Is Kawhi going to wake up at some point? Because he just doesn't really look like he's really even out there, in all honesty. Because like, even like Luka was just going right at him last night. And so I'll be curious to see what they do at the end of the day. Let's see what kind of adjustments that they make, and we will see how the rest of the series goes. But as of right now, man, Dallas is cooking a little bit, and they didn't even really have that great of an offensive night. So we'll see. All right. Make sure you subscribe, like, leave a comment. I've responded to every comment on my YouTube channel up to this point, and I intend to keep on doing so. So leave me a comment. I want to talk to you guys. But yeah, let's go watch some basketball today, y'all. Thanks.